Are you on a budget and are you looking for something that would satisfy your audiophile tastes, but do you want to stay on that budget? Today we're having a look at S.M.S.L C200. This is a DAC headphone amplifier that is on a budget. It is priced at $290. It is provided to us by our Shida store, and this is going to be the DAC/amp of your dreams if you are trying to stay on a budget. So let's see what this little thing can do. I've pretty much given up on trying to do unboxings on video because they are boring, bland, and they just fill in time. So I'm going to fill in time with other content. This is the S.M.S.L C200. As you can see, it is pretty practical, has a very desirable shape and size, pretty small, and it has high resolution stickers, which means that it is going to sound pretty good, right? Well, that is not quite how it works. You can purchase those en masse from AliExpress and stick them on whatever you are using to listen to. But in actual practice, this is a good DAC/headphone amplifier. The main reason I'm doing the video is because it is priced above $200, which has been my lowest price point for making new content because I simply cannot afford to edit the ones I already made. But this one is interesting. This one I like. They wanted me to get excited about it and I managed to get a bit excited. It has a power input at the back. It has an antenna because it has Bluetooth DAC input at this price point. That is pretty surprising. It has coaxial input, it has RCA output, and it has DRS output. This is pretty rare. This is usually designed for active speakers, for example, for Adam audio speakers, like the ones I have beneath the KLH Model 5. I'm basically using them as speaker stands right now, but it is how they work. They need this type of DRS output. It is simpler and cheaper to get the right cables. C200 also has optical input and USB Type-C input. I like that. I give it a big thumbs up for having USB Type-C input instead of relying on the same cattle USB plug that every single other audio stuff uses. I don't like those cables. I prefer Type-C cables. They are easier to source and you can get a much better USB Type-C cable from basically anywhere, especially AliExpress and Amazon. Please purchase this from Amazon if you are planning to purchase it. It's helping me out a lot. I will leave a link in the video description. But yes, we have a volume wheel at the front. This is a digital volume controller because it clicks right in place, which means that the volume is controlled by an internal analog adjuster. It has a small display that you use to see the settings that you are adjusting. It has one large 6.35mm headphone output that is in single-ended mode and one smaller but more powerful headphone output in 4.4mm balanced mode. This pretty much covers the build and what this is. It is a very very practical unit. It is quite ergonomic actually. I like how it looks. It is pretty practical. It gets slightly warm during usage, but nothing crazy. You can't fry an egg over it. It is pretty practical. Doesn't slide off my desk. It has rubber feet. Pretty much everything is covered. Also, it doesn't have an external power supply. Rather, the power supply is internal. So you have this kettle plug at the back to provide it with power. Basically, a good unit. At $220, the only thing you should fear is the sound quality. Because man, when you spend this type of money, you don't know what to expect actually. That is the problem. You can get pretty much anything from very good sounding stuff to really bad sounding stuff. Over the years, I have had some stuff that went through my hands that I liked and some stuff that I didn't quite like. For example, I found the sound quality of anything made by Creative atrocious. Usually it has such a low dynamic range that it adds more dynamic compression to what is already dynamically compressed. It sounds bloated and it lacks detail. Most of their entry-level stuff in particular is bad. Then I have had experience with stuff that sounded really good. For example, Audiophile 4 is an interface that you typically use to connect your microphone to, and it sounds beautiful. I have no idea why it sounded so good. I loved the sound of the Audiophile 4. But eventually I ended up replacing that with the Sirius One case that I use to give DAC and headphone signal to my speakers. S.M.S.L C200 can do pretty much the same thing. It can act as a central unit that you feed all of your inputs and then it powers both your active speakers and up to 2 pairs of headphones. For example, if you have a pair of monitors that have a big but single-ended jack, and then if you have a pair of IEMs or another pair of headphones that has 4.4mm balanced connectors, then you can power both of them. I'm not quite sure if at the same time. I didn't do the test. I should do the test. I already have published the full written review on the C200. I usually publish the written reviews much earlier than the video reviews. Those things, the video reviews, are incredibly hard to make. Please, if you are considering it as a future career for you, please consider this. Don't do video work. Video work is atrociously hard. I just rewrote the entire database of Audiophile Heaven. I pretty much rewrote the entire website, and I've manually edited 450 articles. And it still isn't as bad as editing a single YouTube video. Just so you know how much effort goes into editing those things. It's so hard. I can't stand it. I wish it was a job that I could do. I really enjoy filming, but editing, no. Editing is hard. The sound of the C200. Let's ride our horses and not get derailed. This one sounds pretty good. It has pretty much the S.M.S.L baseline signature. They tend to all have the same signature, the S.M.S.L products. They always have a softer type of bass, a pretty present but also not very impactful mid-range, and a softer type of treble. Kind of signature helps a lot if you are easily fatigued, especially if you don't like bright treble or if you don't like a signature that's too engaging and too dynamic. They can sound a bit bland at times, for example if you are used to very dynamic sounding DAC/amps, but it is very good if you have pretty much any pair of EM or headphone in the entry-level range. It is great if you are still within the entry-level range. If you have something that is a bit more expensive, for example, anything above a Dan Clark Ion Noir is not going to be properly driven by the C200, but anything from Chi-Fi and other entry-level headphones are going to be driven quite well. For example, by our dynamic headphones, the DT880 is going to be a match made in heaven with the S.M.S.L C200. Also, the DAC is much cleaner and much more resolute than the amp part, so the headphone amp is okay. It is very good. At $220 it is one of the best I've heard, but I have heard a ton of much more expensive stuff, so I'm not quite that easy to please. Let's be honest about it. But the DAC output is actually quite good. I would use it with a more fancy pair of speakers. I wouldn't mind it. It sounds pretty good. The DAC out is pretty detailed, pretty neutral, and pretty clean as well. Also, it has better impact than the headphone output. The headphone output just has that tuning where it is softer, gentler kinda. It has lower dynamics and lower detailing, but it ends up being quite musical and quite enjoyable. It is easy to listen to the C200. It is not very hard on your ears. It won't show recording mistakes. When it comes to the driving power it has a pretty high driving power. For example, I was able to, at least theoretically, drive HiFiMan HA 1000 version 2 from the C200, and I was able to drive it quite well. But above about 75% of the volume, it starts to become shouty and starts to become uncontrolled. So anything that can't be driven up to 75% of the C200 power won't be driven well. You need to stay within that power. On the other hand, it has pretty low noise, pretty low hissing. It is quite quiet in the background noise, and that means it works well with IEMs or in-ear monitors. That has been a pleasing experience, and it generally has been pleasing to use. It is simple. You just plug in the USB cable, you plug it into your computer, and you're good to go. No drivers, no settings, nothing that could go wrong. The simpler the setup, the better, because it is going to work. If you have an expensive or complicated setup, there will be things that could fail. With C200, there is nothing that could fail. It's so simple. You just plug in a source, you plug in the output, and it works. On that note, everything works perfectly when you order from Aoshida, either if you order it, the C200 or other products from their website, or if you order them from Amazon. Aoshida has presence on Amazon, and then you are covered by 2 warranties, both Aoshida and Amazon's warranty. If you've been following Audiophile Heaven for a while, you probably know that I've dealt a few times with Amazon, and they sent me a broken motherboard, but they exchanged it and they gave my money back. Everything just ended up being okay, and they didn't know who I was. I was just another customer. They did not know that I make reviews. They didn't know nothing. They are fair to all customers. I recommend Amazon. It is a good place to purchase your electronics from if it is accessible in your area. At the end of the day, you may be wondering, do I recommend the C200? The answer is yes, if you are on a budget. I can recommend many better pieces of equipment at higher prices, including some made by S.M.S.L. They have much better equipment if you want to spend a bit more. But if you are budget constrained, if you can't spend too much, if you want to enjoy music and just don't spend a lot, the C200 is going to be quite awesome. It has a convenient shape, convenient design, it has a good DAC performance and a pretty good headphone amplifier performance. I think it should make you pretty happy. You know what would make me really happy? If you could push that subscribe button and if you could like the video, that would make me extremely happy. I thank you so much for watching. Honestly, I really thank you for watching, and I hope you'll go see another video made by me, or check out my new videos when I post them. Thank you so much and hope you have a lovely week ahead. Bye bye!